This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
(6:15). This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here is the news edited by Dulmin Samarasinghe and read by Indrani Senanayake. The headlines. Construction of the first bonded warehouse complex at the Hambantota International Port commences. The appeal court gives time until tomorrow to Litro Gas Company to inform them of the composition of gas in a domestic gas cylinder. Development officers request the Finance Minister to allocate sufficient funds to provide them with motorcycles. The Pakistan government plans a parliamentary debate on the Sialkot lynching. The WHO urges member countries to prioritise investments in primary health care for universal health coverage. In foreign news, Pentagon says no US troops will be punished for Afghan drone strike. And in sports news, Paris 2024. Olympics opening ceremony is to take place on the River Seine. Constructions of the first bonded warehouse complex, Hambantota International Logistics Centre at Magam Ruhunupura Mahinda Rajapaksa Harbour commenced today under the patronage of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. The Prime Minister attended the event on an invitation from Chief Executive Officer of the Hambantota International Port Group, Johnson Liu. The Prime Minister, along with the Chinese ambassador in Sri Lanka, Ki Zhanghong, made an inspection tour of the port premises. Chief Executive Officer of Hambantota International Port Group, Johnson Liu, pointed out to the Prime Minister 500,000 vehicles have been reshipped by the port this year to many international harbours. Prime Minister Rajapaksa paid a special attention to the plug-and-play zone belonging to Shenzhen Jingji Group, which is being built at the Electronic Equipment Manufacturing Industrial Zone on the concept of the In-Park Zone and Tyre Manufacturing Factory of the Ceylon Tyre Products Private Limited Company. Raw materials and manpower for the tyre manufacturing factory are sourced locally. $600 million have been invested for over 2 years to build the tyre factory in 2 stages, which is spread over 55 hectares of land. The scroll related to the development of the Lunugam as the Village of Hope by the Hambantota International Port Group was exchanged between Minister Chamal Rajapaksa and Chief Executive Officer of the Hambantota International Port Group, Johnson Liu, to coincide with the visit. The appeals court gave time until tomorrow to the Litro Gas Company to inform them of the composition of gas in a domestic gas cylinder. The court gave them time with a petition requesting to take legal action against the distribution of unsafe domestic gas cylinders was taken up today. The petition has also made a request to take action under criminal law against the responsible company and state officials. The Development Officers Association has requested the Finance Minister to allocate sufficient funds to provide them with motorcycles and to implement the proposal soon. They have pointed out that 500 million rupees has been allocated by the project to do so. The association has said it is suitable to provide motorcycles to all public servants who apply for them for service requirements. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
A range of unmatched benefits with People's Credit Cards from People's Bank.
We continue with local news. The government of Pakistan has decided to summon the Senate and National Assembly sessions to discuss the lynching of Priyantha Kumara in Sialkot earlier this month. Pakistani Prime Minister's advisor on parliamentary affairs, Babar Awan, noted that on the advice of the Premier, a debate will be held on the killing of Priyantha Kumara in both houses of Parliament. The Senate session has been called on the December 20th and the National Assembly sitting on the 22nd of December. The World Health Organization has urged member countries in the WHO Southeast Asia region to increase investments to strengthen primary health care as a foundation for universal health coverage and health security. Regional Director, WHO Southeast Asia Region, Dr. Purnam Ketrapal Singh said, during the COVID-19 pandemic, countries with strong primary health care systems were able to respond better and faster to the pandemic, while also maintaining essential services with minimal disruption. The State Minister of Defence of the Good Governance Government, Ruwan Wijewardena, says neither he nor former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe were called for Security Council meetings after the 20th of December 2018. He mentioned this today, giving evidence in connection with the Easter Sunday attacks before the High Court. Mr. Wijewardena said when he asked the former Defence Secretary, Hemasiri Fernando, about not calling him, Mr. Fernando said former President Maithripala Sirisena was not in favour of it. He further said the Security Council was not summoned in 2019 either. Reverend Father Samira Rodrigo of the Katuapitiya Church could not give evidence as he became too emotional. Former Director of Military Intelligence Brigadier Chula Ratnasiri said former Director of National Intelligence Nilantha Jayawardena had the ability to present foreign intelligence information to the intelligence analysis meeting. He further said that he gave information about Zaharan Hashim to Mr. Hemasiri Fernando. Next, we take a look at the main news story.
A range of unmatched benefits with People's Credit Cards from People's Bank. Discounts up to 60% and interest-free installment plans from selected merchants.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The Ministry of Health says 335 more COVID-19 patients were discharged from medical care today. This brings the total number of recoveries reported in the country to 545,768. Sri Lanka has recorded 575,432 COVID patients so far. 15,023 patients are currently receiving treatment. Meanwhile, the death toll from the coronavirus outbreak in the country stands at 14,641. That was the main news story. Next is Watchlight.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Watchlight. The Ceylon Electricity Board General Manager M.R. Ratnatunga said no power cuts will be experienced from tomorrow as the Norachole coal power plant is fully functional now. He said the power plant is supplying 300 megawatts of operations at full capacity. Therefore, he said there is no need to have any power cuts. That came to you in Watchlight. A bulletin of world news will follow.
Coming up, world news.
The headlines. The Pentagon says no US troops will be punished for Afghan drone strike. The UK Prime Minister faces big rebellion as MPs vote on new COVID restrictions. Toyota extended production stoppages in Japan. The US has said no American troops or officials will be held accountable for a drone strike that killed 10 people in Afghanistan in August. The attack took place during the final days of the US-led evacuation of Kabul after the Taliban seized control. An aid worker and 9 members of his family, including 7 children, died in the strike. American intelligence has believed the aid worker's car was linked to the ISK, a local branch of the Islamic State. But in the aftermath, U.S. Central Command General Kenneth McKenzie described the strike on the 29th of August as a tragic mistake. MPs will vote on new COVID rules for England later, with around 70 Conservatives expected to rebel against Boris Johnson. The Prime Minister has defended his plans as a proportionate response to rising cases of the Omicron variant. However, his proposal to make COVID passes a requirement of entering large venues such as nightclubs has angered many of his own MPs. The measures are still likely to pass, as Labour says it will support them. Toyota has announced that it will extend production stoppages at some factories in Japan as it continues to feel the impact of supply chain issues. The world's largest car maker said its components factories in Southeast Asia had faced disruptions due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Land Cruiser and Lexus production will be hit by the delays. The company said the lost production from the latest halts will total about 14,000 vehicles in December. To end this bulletin of world news, the headlines again. The Pentagon says no US troops will be punished for Afghan drone strike. The UK Prime Minister faces big rebellion as MPs vote on new COVID restrictions. Toyota extends production stoppages in Japan. That ends this bulletin of world news. Development news is up next.
Development news is brought to you by Let's take all out of the coconut tree and make the island thriving and prosperous. Call our hotline 1928. WhatsApp 070 400 1928.
Sri Lanka Export Development Board's Regional Development Division implemented an export coaching program as a pilot project for the 25 selected export potential SMEs that are registered under the EBD New Exporter Development Program and assist them to develop capacities to enter the export market. The program consisted of 3 phases, and in the final phase, the companies were evaluated by an interview panel comprising of EDB officers, and the 25 most suitable SMEs for the coaching program were selected from 70 applications received. That was development news. Up next is sports news.
Development news was brought to you by the coconut tree is well grown in almost all the parts of the island. It is an exceptional source of extra income. The shell, the husk and almost all the parts of the coconut tree makes you money, providing you with an excellent extra source of income. It will also help to nourish the economy of the country. You will be guided with all necessary informations regarding the coconut cultivation, with the novel cultivation techniques and all other related and upgraded informations by the Coconut Research Institute, Lunavilla. Call our hotline 1928. WhatsApp 070 400 1928.
Moving on with sports news.
We open with cricket. The 15th match of the Lanka Premier League was played today at the R. Premadasha International Stadium in Colombo. Batting first, Kandy Warriors scored 146 in 20 overs. Meanwhile, the next match for the league between Dambulla Giants and Galle Gladiators will begin at 7:30 p.m. tonight at the same venue. Next is Olympics. The 2024 Paris Olympics will break with tradition and hold the opening ceremony along the River Seine, with crowds of more than 600,000 expected. More than 160 boats with athletes and officials from more than 200 countries will travel almost 6 kilometers between Pont de Austerlitz and Pont de Lena bridges. It will be the first ceremony held outside of a stadium at a Summer Games. The 2024 Olympics will take place from the 26th of July to the 11th of August. That was a look at sports news. Up next is business news.
Cash through NSB globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSB Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSB Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to September 30th, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency through NSB U-Trust for 6 months consecutively. Send more money and increase the chances of winning.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Sri Lanka's largest renewable energy developer continued augmenting investor confidence by declaring a dividend of 743 million LKR, totaling a dividend payout of 1.76 billion LKR for this year. The earlier dividend of 1.01 billion LKR declared in June 2021, just 2 months after its heavily subscribed IPO in April, the largest IPO in Sri Lanka since 2013. Well, that was business news. Economic news follows.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Cash through NSB globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSB Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSB Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners.
Economic news. SEC Chairman Viraj Dayaratne underscored the importance of companies documenting their environmental, social and governance-related data in their annual reports. He links such information to potentially being part of the material information that could be the duty of companies to report to all stakeholders through market disclosures. Mr. Dayaratne was speaking as chief guest recently at the CA Sri Lanka's annual report award ceremony held at the BMICH. That was economic news, and now we take a look at the weather report.
The weather report.
The Met Department says the northeast monsoon has established itself over the island. A low-level atmospheric disturbance is developing to the south of Sri Lanka. Showers will occur at times in the eastern, central and Uva provinces and in the Matara, Hambantota and Polonnaruwa districts. Fairly heavy falls, above 75 millimeters, can be expected at some places in those areas. Several spells of showers will occur in the northern province and in the Anuradhapura district. That was the weather report. To end this evening's news broadcast, we take a look at the headlines again. Construction of the first bonded warehouse complex at the Hambantota International Port commences. The appeals court gives time until tomorrow to Litro Gas Company to inform them of the composition of gas in a domestic gas cylinder. Development officers request the Finance Minister to allocate sufficient funds to provide them with motorcycles. The Pakistani government plans a parliamentary debate on the Sialkot lynching. The WHO urges member countries to prioritise investments in primary health care for universal health coverage. Foreign news, Pentagon says no US troops will be punished for Afghan drone. And in sports news, Paris 2024 Olympics opening ceremony is to take place on the River Seine. That ends this evening news bulletin.